How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.
My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts. This is The Experts, and this is Jonathan Gillum. I'm here, I swear. Had a little delay getting in front of the camera because my buddy Rico decided he had to take an emergency break right as we started, so can't deny Rico. So we're going to talk today about President Trump and his budget. He's done a couple of really good things. I think people should start giving him some credit for the budget, the tax reform, these things that he's doing. It's time. It's just time. If you're liberal and you're watching this show, first of all, I don't think you really know what you are because you've been told you're one way or another. But we discuss that a lot on here. But you got to give credit where credit is due. And then we also have to start calling people out who are national security threats, which we will do today about Sidney Blumenthal, and that is way overdue. Let's get started. Okay. Still fighting the cough, as you can see. I got some tea. And that'll dissipate as we go along. But typically what happens with this stupid cough that is left over from the flu, and I'm not the only one that's saying this, is that as soon as you start talking, I'll go all day not coughing. As soon as I start coughing or talking, it kicks up. So if I have to cough during the show, I apologize. So with that being said, President Trump, well, first of all, let's talk about government workers, okay? He says there was an article in FoxNews.com. It says that it's now going to be easier to fire government workers, and also they're going to have to earn the pay raises. Now, both of those things sound great, and I don't necessarily disagree with his stance on these things. However, the problem is that, as I've stated, and if you didn't get to watch last Friday's show, you should probably go watch it. You can skip past the very beginning, just get to the meat of the show where I'm talking about the reality of what's going on in government and what we should do as a people. Where do we stand now, when it comes to the reality of where the government is, and when do we stand up to the government? So when you look at how I laid that out, and I didn't lay out anything that's a lie. I didn't lay out anything that was based on classified or top secret information. It's just my experience of having been in the in military and in law enforcement and federal agencies and local agency and just working around all these different political structures, which they're political structures. They shouldn't be. They should be law enforcement and intelligence agencies. They should be, a war-fighting machine such as the DOD should only be concerned with fighting wars, determining who our enemies are, and making sure that we have an effective fighting force to defeat those enemies on multiple battlefields at the same time, and having strategic plans to eliminate the enemies. That's what the DOD is really all about, right? That's what they should be about. Unfortunately, that is not exactly what they are about. So, sorry, I had a little problem with my iPad there. So it's the same thing in every agency. And when we look at the way I laid it out last Friday, the way I talked about it today on NRA TV, and the way I talked about it last week on Breitbart, which they did a story on, the recruiting process is completely screwed up. Now, I tried to give today on NRA TV, I tried to give an example of this because Grant Stinchfield asked me to give him an example. My example is a little bit too convoluted, so he came back. He said, if I understand what you're saying, it's the old analogy that everybody gets a trophy, because I was talking about how the recruiting process and these tests that they give, they're written by academics. They're not written by operators. These are tests that are put together by academia, which is by and large as leftist as you can get. So when you start looking at the reality of what's happening in government, it seems very convoluted, but the reality is it trickles down all the way to the very people that they pick through these tests to come into the FBI, the CIA, all these other agencies. And what you see is you start to see an ideology that permeates these different agencies. So when it comes to promotions, when it comes to the promotions, when it comes to the policies, when it comes to the way that they choose people to be a part of these agencies and to promote them into ranks, it's going to be based on ideology, not based on hard work and earning your position as a leader in these agencies. Now, I understand what President Trump is saying, and that's why I agree with it, that you should be able to fire people who don't do the job, and you should be able to promote people or give them pay raises based on how good of a job that they're doing. The problem is, excuse me again, when it comes to government work, you're not in it for the money. I mean, the pay raises we normally get in the federal government are about $50 a year. That's about it. And there's a big one when you go to GS-13, but even that doesn't amount to a whole lot, maybe $100, $200 a year, a month. I think if that, when you get that big pay raise they talk about. So, here's my worry. Here's my worry when I hear the president say what I want to hear. Now, so some of you may be saying, okay, let me get this straight. The president's saying what you want to hear, but you have concerns about that. I have concerns about it because just to say we're going to make it easier to fire federal workers without saying, which we should be saying first, that we are going to go through the federal government and we are going to restructure the way people are hired and the way people are promoted, and then we are going to do an audit using real investigators across the board, starting at the top and working our way down to look for people that have been either breaking the law or utilizing their position for political maneuvering or for personal gain, and firing those people. And once we get rid of those people, we pull up good people who we know we can count on, who are good operators, who've done the right, spent a career investigating or doing intelligence collection, and they've shown that they care about this country and they're not willing to bend their morals and ethics for a dollar or for a political ideology. So once we do that, then we can count on the right people being fired at the right times. But when the president is looking at this and he's saying, this is a good deal, we need to do this, we need to be able to fire government workers, I get it, and it's a great thing. But you can't just say that and then be pleased when your political appointees are able to fire this person or that person and get rid of that person. Maybe they're good. Like that, there's a guy in Puerto Rico who is a part of the VA that's been fired multiple times and rehired because of legal stuff. And so, yeah, that guy should be gone. Worthless, should be gone. A lot of people in the VA should be gone, quite frankly. I've been having a very pleasant experience with the VA, but I know that that's not normal in certain circumstances. So, but we're not going to talk about the VA today. So when the president puts this in place, without removing the powers that be in the government that are, and Richard, you would be able to talk about this as well, that's watching the show on Facebook, whether it's the CIA, the FBI, or the DEA, or ICE, or Homeland Security, any of these people, if you don't remove the people who came to rank in nefarious manners or by checking boxes and saluting an ideology, if you don't get rid of them, who do you think they're going to fire? They're going to fire people who do not think like them. Therein lies the problem. And I wish the president would take note of this, because just making it easier to fire workers, yes, you're going to get rid of some of the people that need to be gone. But you have to realize the system is so deep that there has to be a fundamental change. And you have to go through and pick these people out that are responsible for systematically changing the upper echelons of these different agencies and pulling up bad people. And you have to also change the recruitment policies and techniques and these tests that were written by academics, and we need to start putting tests and taking the best of the best. I know there's agents that be like, you're an idiot for saying that, but it's true. You go out and you bust your rear end and you do an amazing case or several cases. I know there's several people in the Bureau that have stellar careers. Look, it should be like the military, where you come off of that squad for a couple of years and you basically run the recruitment, where you go and you're the one that you pick people like you, not people based on an ideology, but people based on a skill set. and then make that the norm of how you pick people. If we don't do that and you just say it's going to be easier to fire federal workers, we're going to be in a worse position than we are now, because they're going to utilize this. That's what these leftists do. They're going to utilize it to go out and fire the exact people that should be there picking the next generation of agents and operators. So therein lies the problem with that. It's a bigger problem than just being able to fire people. And again, let me say this one more time. While it is a problem that you can't fire bad federal workers and that should be fixed, I think that the problem of ideological people in positions of power in the federal government are going to take advantage of it to get rid of the people that threaten them. That is a problem. So as far as the pay, getting pay advances based on how you do in the federal government, here's another problem that I have. And anybody that's worked in the federal government, you may or may not agree with me, but it is the clickiest. It's the clickiest place I've ever worked. Being in the SEAL teams, there's cliques for sure, just like in any military unit. But largely, you could be the clickiest group of people, but when it comes time to perform, if somebody's a performer, nobody's going to stand in their way. And if they're a turd, they're going to get kicked. They're going to get kicked out eventually. And when I was in Ranger School, the peer evaluations were amazing, because peer evaluations, not only do they pick out who really shouldn't be there, it really does expose the cliques as well, so that managers can look and say, okay, this person needs work, but he's not as bad as this group of people are saying, because these 5 people said the same exact thing, and these 10 people over here are saying something completely different. So peer evals are important, and I think peer evaluations, I've always said this, should be utilized they should be utilized in the federal government for promotions and for giving people pay raises. And I don't think there should be bonuses except for people that do amazing cases in the federal government. Hold on one second. Come here. He's doing his nightly walk around while I'm talking. Come here. All right. I was going to pick him up and let you see him. Hold on. Come here, you rascal. All right, there you go. See what's going on? Say hi. We're having a deep discussion here about politics and leadership. And I guess you're the head dog in charge, aren't you? Is that what it is? Okay, you can sit up here for a minute. So anyway, there we go, and that's what I think about what the president is coming up with. I also want to give the president a shout out for giving the military what they asked for as far as a budget goes. I was watching an interview where they were talking about where Trump was talking about, he was talking to Mattis, the Secretary of Defense, and how he was shocked because they got everything they asked for. That typically never happens. So that shows you the power that this president has. And he's done a great job, I think, of getting the military on track. And I think one thing that he said that really stands out is that he is going to try to revamp the way they purchase things in the military. And that is huge, because right now, they're paying 3 times what they should be paying for a plane, and he's talking about getting 2 for the price of 1. So there's nothing probably in the government more corrupt on a daily basis than purchasing these large contracts that go out. And I think this is something that needs to be revamped greatly. It just shows you that the president is thinking in the right mind, and that he's identifying things that are a real problem, not DACA. Purchasing in the military is a national security threat, and I'll tell you why. Because there's people in there that are out for their own good. There were admirals and generals and people that were caught, McCraven, the SEAL admiral. There you go. That everybody loves because he did the speech about the making your bed. Great speech, great career, ruined, which most people don't even know about because he was caught up in a scandal where contractors were saying, we'll give you a home that's worth $900,000, we'll sell it to you for $100,000, and that'll be payment of $800,000 for letting us have a contract. These types of things that have been going on for a long time are a national security threat to us because we may actually be getting equipment that is not as good as we should have at a much more expensive rate. We may be doing and going to places and starting battles that we should not necessarily be in because we're not fighting them in a correct way, but because they want to employ weapons. It's basically war for money, and that's what a lot of these people are involved with. And so the power to purchase and the power to make contracts needs to be completely rethought. And so I salute the president for identifying that and not worrying and standing up to the war machine that milks our taxpayers just as bad as these foreign countries that get our taxpayer dollars every year. Yeah, exactly. Another thing Richard's saying, when deals are in the trillions, $1 million are like crumbs on a table. But that when you look at what the taxpayers provide the government every year, it is so much money that you can't even comprehend it. It would be like if you wanted to buy enough bubble gum for the year, and I gave you $400 million to go buy bubble gum for the year. Now it may cost you, $1,000 for bubble gum for the year, and now you're going to be left over with $499 million, and with little or no oversight as to how that stuff is spent. So you see, it's a problem when we look at when you look closely at how this stuff has been done for the longest time, and we've been warned throughout the years by several different people as to the fact that this is a problem. So again, the president is stepping up and saying the right thing, and I salute him for that. I think it's awesome. Why don't we move on to the A block, and I want to talk about and we can do, you know what, I should have sometime this week, I'll try to have a show with people that know a little bit more about purchasing and about these types of contracts and how they are used in corrupt ways. Nefarious, I said it twice. So if you're doing the nefarious game, you now have two shots. This stuff really does help my cough. So let's go to the A block, and maybe I should do that when I'm not on camera. I don't know. Hey, this show is raw. Hello, my Meemaw. She's on here, which I owe her a phone call. Let's go to the A block. So, let me take a sip of this. Interesting thing in the headlines again. Now for, gosh, when was Bill Clinton in office? Back in the early 90s. A name has continuously come up again and again and again, and that name is Sidney Blumenthal. Now, a lot of people may not even realize what Sidney Blumenthal looks like, so I'm going to show you what he looks like. He looks like a worm. Let's see, there you go. Oh, where'd he go? There he is. He looks like a worm. He looks like an effeminate little worm. And I don't mean any disrespect to men who may have an effeminate nature. I'm not equating you to this guy. I'm just saying that he's not only a worm, he is a girly worm. So that should tell you how much of a weird person that this guy is. So here's what's interesting about Sidney Blumenthal. From the time he came on into the headlines back in the early Clinton era, this guy has continuously been in the middle. There's nothing ever said nice about Sidney Blumenthal. It's not like you remember that time when Sidney Blumenthal rescued this many people, or remember that time when Sidney Blumenthal came up with a spectacular idea that would help the American people make more money, or that helped the president do great things. No, it's never been like that. Sidney Blumenthal, everything that he's involved with is always nefarious. There's a third time, in nature. I have a habit of saying nefarious. So when we look at him, and we look at, first of all, he's another one of these Clinton coattail riders and Clinton henchmen. When we look at him and we look at all the things that he's been a part of, he was born in Chicago. No surprise there. Seems like everybody that is a leftist in this country that's in a position of power at one time or another was either born or had lived in Chicago. This guy is very similar to Saul Alinsky in that he was born in Chicago to Jewish parents. Doesn't sound to me like he's very into his religion whatsoever. Very similar to Saul Alinsky. Very similar to what's his name? The guy that's also a huge national security threat to this country. I'll think of his George Soros. So he earned a BA in sociology, go figure, and started his career in Boston. Get this, folks. You have to start realizing that there's a correlation here, okay? He started his career in journalism, and he wrote for the Boston Phoenix and the Real Paper. I don't know what either one of those are, but do you realize if we look at a lot of the politicians and a lot of the people who work under the politicians, their henchmen, their kiss asses, the people who end up causing this country more trouble than anybody else, are journalists that become involved with politics. This guy is no different. In fact, he is the epitome of this. So he was a journalist. I don't know how he befriended the Clintons, but when Bill Clinton got into his presidency, Blumenthal served an assistant and senior advisor to Bill Clinton from August 1997 until January 2001. Now, trust me, he was on the radar long before that. And if we look at his career before that, he's the guy who popularized the phrase permanent campaign. So, and he did that in 1980. And if you look at the way presidents work now, it's as though they're permanently campaigning for the next election. Now, that's probably the way it's always been, but it's like really bad now, to the point where in certain cases they don't even get their jobs done at all. So in 1983, he became a national political correspondent for the New Republic. You're going to start to see some of these names are going to be very familiar and causing problems, like Blumenthal began to work for the Washington Post before returning to the New Republic. In 1993, he became a Washington correspondent for the New Yorker before joining the Clinton administration in the summer of 1997. Now, he's on board with the Clinton administration, and that quick got involved with the impeachment of President Clinton when the Monica Lewinsky trial happened. He's known for his extreme loyalty to the Clintons, which anybody who's loyal to the Clintons, I have to hold them suspect. And let's see here. I'm reading through his Wikipedia page, which I think is fascinating. If you get a chance, go look at it. Everything that has been a scandal in the Democratic Party, more or less, this guy is somewhere, when it has to do with the Clintons, this guy is somewhere closely hovering in and around whatever's going on. And then he is used as a henchman to go after people. He's kind of like a publicist with teeth. He knows how to work the media, and he is a very dangerous person when it comes to the way he works media. Let's see here. He got into it with Drudge because Drudge said something about him, personally about him. And then after the Clinton era, he published works and memoirs. Let's see here. There's something here I was wanting to point out that he did earlier. Again, he went back to writing. He went back to into media. He started working with Salon.com, who's written some hilariously stupid stuff about me in the past whenever I'm on Sean Hannity's radio show hosting. He in 2004 he returned to journalism. Blumenthal was a Washington D.C. bureau chief for Salon. He was also a regular columnist for The Guardian, two absolutely worthless and grotesque online publications. He then did some stuff with Hollywood, go figure, and working as an associate producer and executive producer on different things. After that, he joined Hillary Clinton in 2008 for a presidential election campaign as a senior advisor. Now, he was not allowed to work under the State Department when Hillary Clinton was head of the State Department because Rahm Emanuel didn't like the things that he had said about President Obama when Hillary Clinton was running against him, because, again, this slime works the media and had said awful, degrading, and probably true stuff about the president, and Rahm Emanuel didn't like it. He didn't trust him. Probably one of the smarter things that Rahm Emanuel has done. However, as we know now, that didn't necessarily keep Rahm Emanuel keep Blumenthal out of the State Department and the actions that they were taking. When Muammar Gaddafi in 2011, there was an uprising in Libya against Muammar Gaddafi. Blumenthal was involved with that. He prepared from public and other sources, I'm quoting Wikipedia here, about 25 memos which he sent as emails to Clinton, which she shared with her aide, Jake Sullivan, senior State Department, in the form of State Department personnel. In the form of intelligence briefings, the memos sometimes touted his business associations and at times contained inaccurate information. Gee, does that sound familiar? Kind of sounds like this dossier in the same type of way that was created in a lot of ways. In other words, he was writing the memos and then they were taken as truth and intelligence reports, when basically it's like Clinton was writing her own intelligence reports through this worm right here. So they basically were writing whatever they needed to get stuff done. During Benghazi, this worm was involved with the security that eventually turned around and attacked our embassy. And he is in our CIA outpost. This guy was involved with hiring I think he might even be on the board of directors or something like this. I'm not exactly sure. I don't have clarity of this. But Osprey, which was ran by General David Grange, which I had the unpleasure of working with as a civilian, who totally screwed me over out of a lot of money and is a criminal, and it does not do any favors to veterans. He'll steal from them that fast. This guy worked with him and their company Osprey to hire, outfit, feed, and arm the exact people who turned around and attacked and killed 4 Americans in Benghazi. Sidney Blumenthal, once again, right in the middle of the mix. He then went on to serve as a consultant to Media Matters for America, and 2 super PACs, for Clinton and the Democratic Party. He lives in Washington, D.C. with his wife, Jacqueline, who must have some kind of mental disorder that she's married to this guy. So, there you go. So, how is this guy not a national security threat? How is Sidney Blumenthal? I can't stand to look at his picture anymore, so I'm going to shut that off. How is he not a national security threat? Because now, again, he's up in the news, being shown. And let me pull that story back up here again real quick. This is from foxnews.com. Now he's being looked at as somebody that was involved in the launch of the Russian probe, this whole fiasco about the Russian probe against the president. Again, I just pointed out there a second ago how he's already done this when it came to the stuff with Muammar Gaddafi. So how are people like this allowed to exist anywhere around our government? The Greeks back 2,000 years ago, they used to do some great stuff. Everybody had to serve in the military. I love that if you're a citizen. Their Congress was a kind of like our jury duty, where it was on a lottery, and if you were called, you had to go serve in Congress for a couple of years. Great idea, I think. Then I think their Senate was a full-time. I may be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's the way it went. And then every year they would pick out somebody who was the most, I believe it was every year, it might have been every 10 years, but I think it was every year. They would pick out the person that was the biggest threat to their country, the citizen that was the biggest threat to their country, who caused the most problems, and then they would cast them out, and they would banish them from the country. See what Debbie's saying. Yeah, I know, Debbie, I know it's a rhetorical question. So that's the way the Greeks did it. And they would get rid of these people. They would banish them from the country. I mean, I say that, look, if you look at this guy, Sidney Blumenthal, you look at his actions and you look at his history, I'm going to be honest with you. It doesn't just borderline treason. It goes far past treason. And there was a day and age where we hung people who were treasonous in this country. We need to get back to real capital punishment for people who are knowingly working against the national security of this country. What happened? I'll ask this every week. What happened to this country? What happened to our... Look, we may be a superpower to the rest of the world, but we are failing on the inside. We are failing to be a superpower. Not just a superpower, but to be a superpower. We are so fragile on the inside because of these two political parties that are private companies that own every seat of power in the United States and are directly connected to all the globalists around the world that are doing the same thing in their countries. And last Friday, I asked this question. Go back and watch last Friday's show. It's a great show, if I don't say so myself. I kept asking the question, what are we to do? How are we going to fix this? What can we do as American citizens? And you know what? I figured it out. I don't know how we do it, but I figured it out. You don't have to pick up guns. You don't have to go to battle. You don't have to protest. You don't have to step out of your house. If every American citizen refused to pay their taxes, the government, as we know it, would stop. And then we could demand whatever we want. Now, I advocate paying taxes. I'm not saying I don't believe in paying taxes, because I do. We need taxes for the roads. We need taxes for all these things. But you want to know how we could stop this nonsense in a flash? if the American citizen, remember I said this, and I've been saying it for 2 years, dialogue creates unity, unity creates strength. 1,000 people, this wouldn't work. 1 million people, it wouldn't work. 10 million people, it might. If 60 million people did what I'm saying, it would shock this government. And then the people would be able to make demands that you leave and you leave and you leave. And we want this person there. And then the people could bring things back. I don't believe in this constitutional or this, what's it called? The Convention of States. It's ran by the Democrats and the Republicans. It's not going to work. The DNC and the RNC, it's not going to work. Any type of action like that that's going to involve politics, doesn't matter if it's a state level, it's going to fail because it's being ran by the RNC or the DNC. The only way this country is really going to come back is if everybody figures out a way to stand together and to take back control of the government. And the way you do that is with the power of the purse. You know, they say that Congress controls the purse. Well, guess who? They're basically holding the purse. We hold the money. And I think if the American people in a perfect world stood together and said, nope, this April, you're not getting any money from us until, see, that's a big difference. Not you're not getting any money from us. If the American people stood together and said, you're not getting any money from us until anybody who's been in Congress and in the Senate for more than 10 years, you're gone. Or in the case of the Senate, it would be 12 years. But you're gone. Any judge, state, local, federal, that has shown partiality to one or the other political parties, you're gone. You're fired. Any of the people in Washington, D.C., like Blumenthal, who are determined to have lied under oath, who are determined to have leaked information, government information, who have consistently caused people to die. In the case of Blumenthal, in Benghazi, they should be arrested and tried for treason. Never to be in and around government ever again. They should be treated like pedophiles and playgrounds. They should never be around Washington, D.C. again. None of these people. And then once we get what we want, then we give the taxes, then we fund everything. If you want to take power, that's the way you do it. You hold on to your money. But it would have to be done by at least half of the voting public, which is about 60 million people. Let's see here. Somebody just said something here. Let me see what you're saying here. Steve says can't hold the money back because they mandate the employer to withhold it. Well, that's the thing. If the employers are on board, then that's the way it would go. It would be very easy. I don't know. It probably wouldn't be as easy as I'm saying. But I think I'm on to something there, that the taxes are the way to control the federal government. I'll let the economists figure that out. But that is, if you want to control the government, you got to control the money. So, again, don't not pay your taxes, okay? But if the American people all stood together, then I think that is one of the places where you could go. I don't know. I'm trying to think, folks. But people like this Sidney Blumenthal, the government is made up of these people, and they are corrupt, treasonous, and they do not have the best interest of the people. I don't care if you're liberal or conservative, gay or straight, black, white, woman or man. They don't have your best interest at heart. They just do not. So, there you go. Anybody else got anything? All right. I think we'll call it a night. I'm just reading what you guys are saying here. If you get a chance, go watch last Friday's show. A lot of this will make sense. Yeah, true. Anthony says we can barely keep track of the truth anymore. All right, let's go to the Truth Zone. I'll sit here and read your comments as the music plays. So I finally figured out, as you can see, those of you that gotten emails from me who've donated $50 or more to the GoFundMe page, I finally figured out a way to get and please, if you got in the email, don't share that with anybody, how you got it, whatever. Let's keep that sterile. And so if you get an email from me, you'll know how to respond and where to send your mailing address to. So that's kind of worked out. Now the next process is how I get the books to you. That's what I'm going to work out next. Are the books going to be signed themselves, or am I going to get the books like from Amazon and then send you the little sticky note that I signed, and then that goes inside of your book? We're going to figure that out. I want to thank everybody for all the incredible comments that they made last week, because I asked everybody, what does this show mean to you? And I think a lot of people thought that I was direly upset and down on myself because of this show, and it's not that. I just got to figure out what this show is, and I got to figure out where this show is going. It is. It takes a lot of work to do this show, and I want to make sure that it's happening for the right reasons. Make sure if you didn't share this show, you share it now and you retweet it so that others will know about it, and tell 5 people about it if you can. So I want to thank you all for the great notes, unbelievable support, and it makes me want to continue going and keep this going. Just got to figure out how to make this bigger, because right now it's just not happening. Social media is not this show it's not filled with blondes and hot people. I mean, I'm not a hot person, so it's truth. And although people want the truth, they want eye candy. So, I'm kind of torn there, because you're not going to get a lot of eye candy here. So I'm trying to figure out how to get this thing to explode on social media. So your support is great. I got to figure it out. I don't know how to get this forward. People want the truth, but they're so addicted to their eye candy that they won't turn off the TV and turn this on. And then we can't get people like Facebook and Twitter to be honest and just let the show promote itself. It's all about the dollar. It's all about the ideology. It's never about truth. Last thing, continue to tell people about this book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to do part of the show talking about the reviews that I've gotten, because the reviews are a perfect example of what's good in this country and what's bad. And I did a show with John Crouch and Dr. Wally Grant about mentorship a long time ago, and they spoke to this. And so I'm going to talk about that a little bit tomorrow. Ultimately, this is what it boils down to. You show up to the game to learn how to play and to be a part of it. You don't show up to the game just to get a trophy. And that's what people want. They want you to show them everything. They don't want you to show them a way to think and to figure out. They don't want to learn how to fish. They want to be given the fish. And that's the problem with this country. Everybody wants a fish. What happened to the exceptional people in this country? Well, we'll work to bring them back. I'm Jonathan Gillum. My good buddy Rico, he's around there somewhere. This is the experts. And remember, wherever you see this face, wherever you see the CQRF, know this: the truth has arrived. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.